Hello everyone. Hi.
Hello.
Yes, thank you. Some response. Good evening everyone. Yes. Thank you for calling me sir. And I would ask all of you a simple question. Do you guys know which club have you partnered with? Okay, perfect. Which league do they play in? Are you sure? Yes. Okay, last year which league they were playing in? Correct. So last year they were in championship and they got promoted to Premier League this year. Okay. And yes. And today we have few people from Southampton there itself over here. Firstly, can you let me know any great Southampton players that you know? Okay, do you know how he looks like? Are you sure? So, what's your name? Okay, so we have the great Premier League legend, Southampton icon, Southampton legend, Tissier over here. Just to speak some humble facts about him. First Premier League ever player midfielder to score 100 goals. Yes, that deserves an applause, yes. And one very interesting fact, he has a splendid penalty record, scoring 47 penalties out of 48 attempts. Along with him, on his left, we have Tom Gravitt, Head of Football Operations of Southampton. And over there we have somewhere Andy Martino. Hi Andy. Yes, Head of Football Development. Okay. And we have a very special person, Luke over here. He'll be capturing all your photos and videos. So if you want your photos and videos, you have to travel in. Okay, now I'll hand over to Tom to take it ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's really exciting to meet you all. Thank you for coming along, and we've hopefully got a nice evening ahead of us for you. In a few moments, you'll have an opportunity to have a session with Andy Martino. Andy has had a wealth of experience at the Southampton Academy, working there for over 20 years and being a part of some of the Academy graduates that you might well know. He's been part of that journey for their progression over the years as well. And as you can see, and we've already been introduced, we have the really famous Premier League and Southampton legend in Tissier, which you'll all have an opportunity to ask some questions, to dig deeper into his career and some of his legendary stats and career highlights, as well as then find out a little bit more about the partnership for myself that we can talk about in a moment. So now it's obviously the beginning of our journey with BBFS, and you might have seen it over the last couple of days being spoken about. You might have heard some information, and I'm here to give you a little bit more insight to what that can look like. Through that partnership, we're going to be working closely with the BBFS coaches. We're hopefully going to be able to provide some of the coach education, some of the insights and methodologies that we do in the Southampton Academy. Southampton's had a rich history of developing players over the last decades. We're very fortunate to be in the presence of one of those famous players, of Tissier. And since then, decades and years that have gone by, we've been able to lift some of that authentic experiences that we've provided for those players and development opportunities. And we want to be able to extend that to all of the people around the world, including our players here at BBFS. So you're really fortunate to be able to enjoy some of the first sessions that Andy will be doing as part of this partnership here this evening. But we want to be able to generate that interest and that appetite to learn, to develop and improve your game as well. Through this partnership, as mentioned, We've got a lot of coach education opportunities, and hopefully you'll be able to see some of the new practices, new information that the coaches will learn, updates in their curriculum, and lots of other insightful areas that they'll learn and develop, and hopefully you'll be able to see that implemented into your sessions in this environment on a long-term basis. Some of the opportunities for players direct, because ultimately this partnership is formed around the players. You're the most important people here, and we want to be able to provide an excellent experience and development for all of you to be able to enjoy this as we continue the journey. One of those touch points and connection points will be our UK player development camps. You may have heard about these, and it's an opportunity for each and every one of you to be able to join us in Southampton, in the UK, experience the culture, but then get an insight and a flavour of what it's like to be an Academy Southampton player. You'll be training at the same facilities, the home of Southampton Football Club. You'll be training in the same place as our men's and women's first team, as well as our academy players and some of the players that I mentioned throughout the years. You'll have the coaches from Southampton Academy, with Andy being one of them. You'll be able to work with them on a day-to-day basis in that camp. You'll be able to get the insights and sharings of the good practice that we do with our academy players, and that'll be able to be delivered to you guys as well. Underpinning all of that training will be a player development pack and a program that each and every one of you will receive. The coaches will guide you through that pack throughout the week for both on-field and off-field development, and then you'll be able to bring that pack home back to your environments here, which hopefully will be able to allow you to progress and improve your game over here, as well as provide reflection points to be able to remember some of those development opportunities that you had over here with us. Further to that training, we'll have video analysis where we'll be able to reflect and assess some of the delivery and some of the performances throughout the week, and you'll be able to get a new flavour and an insight to what a different component of the coaching delivery as well. Off the pitch, you'll have some really exciting opportunities. This season, you'll have the chance to come and watch a Premier League game. Watching Southampton at St Mary's against one of the famous Southampton opponents within the Premier League, and you'll be able to have an opportunity to watch that firsthand. When we're at the stadium as well, you'll be able to have a stadium tour where you'll get an insight to the behind the scenes at St Mary's Stadium, where the men's and women's first teams, you'll be walking in exactly the same steps as what they do on a match day. You'll be able to have the VIP access and see behind the scenes. In addition to all of that really exciting areas, we'll also be putting you in a programme where you can then play against English opposition. That could be one of the Southampton Academy teams, depending on the age and the development stage of different players that come over, as well as some of our wider Southampton football programme opponents, as well as English grassroots teams, depending on what's relevant to the groups that come over. So there'll be a chance to put all of that training into practice against UK opposition, and within that programme there'll be opportunities to have benchmarking against academy players to see, compared to from the physical testing to the academy player characteristics, be able to see where your benchmark is and give you areas to improve on for when you come back to play in this environment. I think the BBFS representatives will be able to share more information on the dates and the times and the ages that's going to be appropriate for, but we really look forward to be able to welcoming you over with us in the next within the next year. We'll take this chance to see if anybody has any questions on the UK Player Development Camp before I pass on to Matt, and we'll go on to that next section. Does anybody have any questions at all? Perfect, if not for now. Do you have a question, young man? Did I see that? No? Yeah?
Who do you think is way better in Southampton?
That might be a question for Matt that we'll hold, and then we'll pass that on to Matt in a moment. I love my opinions, but Matt Stephanie's opinions are more valuable than mine when it comes to that. But hopefully you'll receive some more information on the player development camps through the BBFS team, and you'll be able to have lots of insights to what that looks like. I'll be around for a little while where parents, players can ask questions if you had some specific things that you wanted to find out. Now, get to the really exciting part, even more so than the player development camps, where we'll have an opportunity to ask some questions to Matt Tissier. Matt Tissier has had a fantastic career through the Premier League, through the Premier League highlights. As it was introduced earlier, there's some fantastic career that he's had behind us. Does anybody have any questions that they wanted to start off for Matt?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. How
try to play full-time in the Premier League. Is it possible for Indian national team to play for that?
There we go. Thank you very much. Thanks for your question. So, being a professional footballer was obviously a dream that I had as a young boy. So, to be able to do that at Southampton for 16 years was quite amazing. And obviously, part of this partnership, one of the aims is to raise the standard. Raise the standard of not just the players here at BBFS, but also the wider Indian community, and hopefully long term, I think it would be fantastic if we could get an Indian player to play in the Premier League. So, fingers crossed. That's what the ultimate. Okay, we'll try. But I was brought up in a little island that sits in between England and France. So it's a tiny little island and only 60,000 people, and that's where I grew up. And fortunately for me, when I was 15 years of age, my island that I played for, we went to Southampton and we had a trial match in Southampton, and luckily for me there was a Southampton scout at the game. I obviously had a pretty good game and was invited for a trial for Southampton.
Come close, we can hear him. Step down one row. Come a little bit closer.
Go to the next question. Yes. Very good question. What is your hardest opponent you've faced?
Okay, do you mean an individual player or a team? Team? Okay, so probably the best team I ever played against was the Manchester United team of the...
Yeah!
I thought it might be.
It's your favourite club until you get to know Southampton a little bit more. Oh, okay. How many trophies did you win?
So with Southampton, we didn't win any leagues, but from an individual point of view, I won the Southampton Player of the Year for 3 years. I also won the Young Player of the Year for the division, for the first division. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is that 1 year in the Premier League, one of my goals was voted the best goal of the season. That question always comes up. Both of them are fantastic footballers. Amazing. For me, I would prefer to watch Messi play than Ronaldo. That doesn't mean Ronaldo is no good. I just think Messi is more naturally gifted, and that's why I prefer watching him play.
Have you ever faced Ronaldo?
I didn't face Ronaldo, I just missed him. So I retired in 2002. Ronaldo joined Manchester United, I think 1 year after. I just missed him.
I know, I'll build on that question. I probably have a question as well. You did play Cristiano Ronaldo. Are you able to enlighten us with some of the players that you did face throughout your years?
Yeah, so in the Premier League, probably the best player that I ever played against. And if there's any Arsenal fans in here, you will know that Tissier was pretty special. So he was probably the best player I played against. And he also had a guy who was playing with him at Arsenal at the time, called Dennis Bergkamp, who was a Dutch number 10 who was just amazing footballer as well. So they were pretty special. I also was very lucky. I played against Juventus in the early 90s, and they had a guy called Roberto Baggio in their team at the time. And they're probably the best players that I ever played against.
That's some pretty impressive stuff. Okay, has anybody else got any questions?
Have you played across mid 80s, 90s? How do you think football has changed over these years and how it is now?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Football's changed a lot since I played. I think probably the two biggest factors, apart from the money, I think the standard of the pitches that we play on nowadays is so much better than we had in the 80s and 90s. The technology for the grass is so much better, the ground is so much better. And I think as the years have gone on, I think football has now become more of a tactical game than it was back in the 80s and 90s. I think in my time, teams relied more on individual brilliance to try and win football matches. And I think now, with the new breed of managers that are coming through with Pep Guardiola and those kind of people, it's the tactics that are more important than the players almost in this day and age. So I think that's one of the biggest changes that I've seen. And I'm not sure I'm too pleased with that, because I think for me, football is an entertainment industry, and I think the way that football's played now doesn't really allow players like me to flourish in the Premier League.
And I think through how football's developed as well, you know, Southampton being able to produce players like Matt, and obviously players since then as well, as he's on the park. Any other questions? Yes, sir, Matt?
The hardest individual player that I ever played against. Okay, so I played against a guy when I was very young called Stuart Pearce, who was an England left back. He was very scary. I was very young and very skinny, a long time ago obviously, and he frightened me for a couple of years playing against him. So he was very difficult, and then you had people, so the Arsenal fans will know Tony Adams and Martin Keown, really good defenders from back in the 90s. They were really good. And Des Walker, who was a guy who played for Nottingham Forest and Sheffield Wednesday, he was a really tough opponent. He was really, really fast, and I wasn't. Yes, I've won many a game against Manchester United. I scored 5 goals at Old Trafford. Not quite. Not the half the furthest out I scored from was, I think, 35 yards, so about 30 metres.
That was the goal of the year, right?
That was the goal of the year, yeah, versus Blackburn.
Great goal, that's for sure. I think some of the players are going for their session. Yeah. Any other questions?
Oh, so I was at Southampton for 16 years, so we had 9 coaches. So my favourite one, the first coach. My first coach was a guy called Chris Nichol, who used to be a player for Southampton and then he managed Southampton. And unfortunately, he actually passed away earlier this year, sadly. He had a disease, but he gave me my debut and he was the manager for the first 6 seasons that I played. My favourite manager was a guy called Alan Hall. And Alan was actually in the England team that won the 1966 World Cup. And he was my favourite manager. I didn't play. I was in the England squad with Paul Scholes, but I played against him quite a lot. Yeah.
Yes, young man.
How many years when you
For professional football, I played for Southampton first team when I was 17. Today? In the Premier League or Southampton?
who's your favorite player?
Okay, in the Premier League, my favourite player is either Kevin De Bruyne or maybe Phil Foden. But also in Southampton we have a very good young lad who's just started playing in the first team called Tyler Diddley, and he's going to be a very good player. He'll be the next big Southampton star.
Is it Ganj?
Jack, you came through the Southampton Academy, yes, started there. Yeah.
You played when you were young a long time ago, so when you were growing up and playing, who was your idol?
My idol was, so when I grew up, when I was a young boy like you, my favourite team was Tottenham Hotspur. So I was a Spurs fan, and in the Spurs team in those days was a guy called Glenn Hoddle, who went on to be England manager as well as playing for England, and he was my hero as a kid. I tried to copy everything he did. Yes. No, I haven't played it internationally. Sadly not. I would have loved to.
Any parents, you're welcome to ask questions as well. Yep.
How long you are in India, Indian football? How long you have seen the Indian football? And to see that, vis-a-vis European and otherwise, we are very enthusiastic, but we are not able to perform. Why? What are the reasons you analyze?
So I only arrived in your own and I saw my first session just this morning with some of the boys at a fitness centre. And I have to say, I was pretty impressed. There was definitely football talent was definitely on show there, and ability that can be worked with. And hopefully, the fact that they're going to get improved coaching over the years, with the coaching program that's going to be put in place. And hopefully the standard of the players will rise, and we're doing it right. We're doing it at the top level first, because if you start there, you build a good base, and every year that they get up, they will raise the standard each year in Indian football, and that's the plan.
In some ways, we are lacking our players lacking physicality, because the kind of sprints are being done up, the kind of the fitness is needed over there. And I've been to Germany, over there the people since in childhood, they basically they maintain their physical fitness, whereas we very fat, and I said we are not able to do that. Is it one of the reasons?
I mean, it could well be, but I think there's ways around that, and there's certain things that you can do to help that. And it's down to the dedication of the player himself. You want to keep yourself at a level of fitness that's going to be good enough to go and play football at a very high standard. And so it's definitely within the reach. It's just the right mentality, the right attitude towards football, and towards looking after yourself.
Physical delivering as well as psychological, social and technical side of the game as well. So hopefully we'll be able to improve all components of football development for all of the players.
Sorry, I was a little late, so I don't know if you've already asked this, but you have programs where our kids will be coming across your places.
Yes, absolutely.
I actually missed that.
I'm going to be going back through that in a short while. So when these players next go to their session, I'll be able to give a lot more information on that as well. Okay? Yes, young man.
And what age did you retire?
So I retired when I was 33. Yeah, not very old. When I started very young. I got to 33 and I was very tired. Very injured.
Throughout your career, what, in your opinion, what do you think was the best performing year for your team and for yourself also?
So I think for my team, in 1990, the highest position that Southampton finished in the Premier League, or what was the first division back then, was 7th. So that was my best season. And that season I scored 24 goals in the season. But for me personally, 1995 was my best year at Southampton, where I scored 30 goals that season. And that was a pretty special season.
I got used to this moment.
Did you play in the English national team?
Yeah, so I played for the England national team 8 times. So I had 8 caps for my country. I started 3 games and I made 5 substitute appearances.
Have you won the Puskas Award?
No, unfortunately not. There actually wasn't a Puskas Award when I was playing. I'm that old.
Have you ever won the Euros?
No, didn't. So I didn't play in a Euros finals or a World Cup. I played in 2 World Cup qualifiers, but that was all. I didn't go to the World Cup.
How did you manage ticketing?
Oh, okay. So yeah, so I was playing football pretty much since I could walk. I had three big brothers growing up, and they were all really good footballers. So my football was just in my family. So as soon as I could walk, I had a ball everywhere. And then I reckon about the age of 8, I wanted to be a professional footballer. And then through my studies at school, I did okay at school. I wasn't at the top of the class, but I was at the bottom. I was so I managed to balance everything. But I had a real inner confidence at a very young age that I was going to be a footballer. So I probably could have done better at school if I didn't know that I was going to be a footballer. I played multiple sports and also a pretty